Everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. And joining me today, everybody give him a great big hand, Mike Piwiarski of The Rundown. All right, that's enough. That's enough. He doesn't need that much applause. Mike, thanks for joining us today, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great today, Paul. How are you doing? How's the SAF family doing? How's everybody in your circle doing?
Doing great, doing great. It's a fabulous, wonderful spring day. Today is the day to go retrieve the motorcycles from winter storage. Ooh. And apparently there's a celebration going on down in Florida. It's almost like the lockout has ended and there's going to be baseball.
Going to be baseball. It's not pure baseball, but we'll take what we can get. Tell me, before we get into the celebration, tell me more about getting this motorcycle. This sounds like great news.
Well, winter time is over. The temperature is reliably in the 60s, and so it's time to get the motorcycles out of storage and start putting them on the road where they belong.
There you go. To heck with that groundhog. Today's the day when spring starts, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Oh,
now you're teasing us here, Mike. You're teasing us. What's with?
I'm not. It's sneaky. It's sneaky. JMO, I said we play later, not now. It keeps sticking out from behind the computer and wants to say hi to everybody.
There you go. Before we get started on the news, we had a comment. We had a question come up yesterday. We were talking about a bill in Tennessee, to bring you up to speed, Mike. We were talking about a bill in Tennessee that would make it, you would be a criminal if a firearm got stolen out of your car unless you could prove it was in a locked box inside your locked vehicle. You'd have to prove that, otherwise you're going to be guilty of a crime. And question came up, well, wasn't there a bill that got signed into law a while back where that if you had a gun-free zone in Tennessee, that you were responsible for any injuries in that gun-free zone if a criminal came in and started attacking people? Well, after the show closed, I went and looked, and yes, that law went into effect in 2016. So yes, they're in Tennessee. If there is a gun-free zone, the owner of the property of that gun-free zone is responsible for any injuries that are caused if a criminal takes a gun into that gun-free zone and starts doing what criminals do. And let's see, one thing I didn't, because we got going really quickly right away. I don't have social media hooked up all the way. I knew I was forgetting something, but we've got it hooked up now, and I want to remind everybody, if you want to comment on our show, go ahead and comment. We'll get you, if you're relevant to what we're talking about, we'll get your comment up, and we'll mention it on the air. We'll talk about your comment on the air. What I want to talk about to start with today, Mike, is Alabama. Just a week or so ago, the governor signed constitutional carry into law. The legislature says, well, that's cool, but that's not quite good enough. They're going for a law saying now all executive orders that go against the Second Amendment, that's not going to work here in Alabama.
Yeah, this is great for, first off, Alabama. You know, they were one of the dark horses for constitutional carry. Remember, they were talking about it. They had a couple of their liberal police chiefs show up and then talk against it. A couple of the because if you recall, I think one of the congressmen was a former captain of the sheriff's office, their police departments, that hired him as a cop, and then he became a congressman and he was pro-gun, and evidently, you know, clearly he got they got their way down there in Alabama. But so they got their constitutional carry, but they want to, like you said, they want to take it that step further now in Alabama, and this is basically, you know, I mean, your sanctuary law, language is what it is now. For those out there freaking out, you can't do this, you can't do that. What this law says is, if the president signs any executive orders and they're unconstitutional, then the state will not enforce them. And that's what it says. It says unconstitutional because it says if it's in violation of any state law allowing the use and carry of firearms, then we're not going to do it. That means if he writes an unconstitutional executive order against state law and the Second Amendment, the state of Alabama is going to give him one of these. Hey,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Get away from me. Yeah.
Exactly. And is that going to affect what the FBI does? No. Is it going to affect what the ATF does? No. But
absolutely not. Yep.
The FBI and the ATF are going to have a real hard time. There aren't that many numerically. There are a lot of FBI agents, but there aren't nearly enough if they want to control everything. There are a lot of there are maybe a tenth the number of ATF agents as there are FBI agents.
Yeah, yeah, and just like Paul said, if listen, there's some gun running operation, some gun sting that needs to happen. Some illegal gun sales. The feds will work together with the locals and the state to make sure the bad guys are put in jail. But if the president signs an order that says take all magazines over 11 rounds and all black rifles, the state's going, not a chance, buddies. Not a chance. Park your car at the border. You're not coming in here.
Yep, exactly. Next one, and this is a bit of good news out of Michigan, of all places. Michigan started the year off. They really wanted, the lawmakers there were really working hard on getting a red flag law passed. The news story I read is Michigan is one of 35 states that do not have a red flag law. We need, the lawmakers were looking to correct that, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen this year. Enough Michiganders, and I hope I'm using that term correctly, enough Michigan residents got a hold of their legislators and said, we don't want this. It's just another term for gun confiscation. And, oh, by the way, you don't get to represent, you don't even get to be in the courtroom when this is decided. It's just bad law all the way around. It looks like the legislature's backing away from red flag laws this year.
Yeah, nice to see this, right? That there are more legislatures out there that have the gumption to stand up and say, no, we're not doing this. We're not going to enact this. Listen, Michigan already has a domestic violence injunction law. They already have a repeat violence injunction law. What do those mean? They mean if you believe that there's an individual out there that you don't know that has been threatening you, you know them and they've been threatening you and they're threatening to commit violence on you, whether they be a former domestic partner or not. So either way, you could go to the Michigan court and you could get an injunction in place, and the judge at that time has the ability to restrict those people from having firearms. But guess what happens throughout this process? You heard that word right there, process. You have to go to the court, and there's a process where the judge gets to say yes or no, you get to keep it. Now, I believe they have a 10 or 15 day, depending on which court district you're in. So if it's an imminent threat, they could say, okay, isolation right now, but in 10 days, this guy gets his court date. And at that point, he gets to stand in front of the judge and say yes or no. And I got to tell you, most of these temporary injunctions are thrown out. They don't go beyond the 10 or 15 day mark, because once you have to stand in front of the judge and provide evidence of your claims, the judge is none too forgiving if you came in with a lie. Whether it was child custody dispute turned wrong, whatever reason, a divorce dispute turned wrong, which people use these for. Are there reasons for these to be used legitimately? Absolutely. Is taking my firearms away from me ex parte with new due process a legitimate reason? Not a chance in hell.
And that happens far, far too often. I have friends that have had absolutely terribly, horribly, ugly divorces. And how people that love each other so much can hate each other so terribly at the end of a marriage and do these horrific things to each other is just beyond me. But yeah, I've seen, especially when there are children involved, there are just nasty, nasty battles, and there's nothing below these people.
No, not at that point, especially once you get the lawyers involved, because then you could be mean via proxy. So that makes it even worse.
Absolutely. Let's one more story I wanted to cover today. You and I have talked about this on previous bullets, but San Jose put forward that, and I'm gonna. They call it a fee. I'm calling it a tax. That's what it is.
Yeah.
On gun owners in the city. Well, this is the second time they've been hit by a lawsuit over this. This by independent taxpayer groups in the city. They're suing the city of San Jose, saying this is enough. This is not right.
Yeah, and when this happened, folks, you remember this was city of San Jose up there just outside of San Francisco area. Mm-hmm. They passed a law. Well, about a year ago, they passed the intent to pass a law that said they were going to require you have to have firearms insurance in your home in case you ever use your firearm lawfully, that you'd have insurance to cover anything that occurred out of that lawful use of your firearm. But they didn't have any language to put in it. Their lawyer told them, we can't write this up. This isn't any good. Well, it took them about a year of arm twisting and cajoling the lawyer, and he finally came up with some language, and it passed in this past week or two. Well, one of the additional parts of this, you have to have insurance. It was, well, there's a $25 fee involved now for being a gun owner. So if you're going to own a gun, we want $25 as the city so we can provide gun safety education and gun ownership alternatives, whatever the crap they came up with was. And they clearly said to organizations like Everytown for Gun Safety and Crazy Moms Against Everything and all of the other Bloomberg-backed organizations. So these and now you and I, Paul, we said right here, man, I bet you Alan Gottlieb has got a pre-written lawsuit in his back pocket for this. And it turns out, I guess Alan didn't pull it quick enough. There's these three other organizations, and they're like Californians Against Excess Taxes, or these taxpayer watchdog groups. And they said, no, you can call it a fee all you want. When you take money from one organization or one group of people to give it to the other group of people that they're clearly against, that's clearly a violation of the First Amendment rights, no matter what the topic is. And they have stood up and said, we're not doing this, and we're suing the city right now. And Paul, how ironic is it? How great is it going to taste when another organization, a non-gun organization, is the one that has stepped forward to say your law is crap, Well,
and let me read off the list. There are three organizations that came together in this lawsuit: the Silicon Valley Public Accountability Foundation, the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and the Silicon Valley Taxpayers Association. I didn't hear Second Amendment. I didn't hear guns. Nope. I didn't hear anything in any of those.
Nope. This is great. And those are the kind of names that you got bigwigs behind. Okay. That's you start throwing Silicon Valley around. That's yeah. You're talking good financial backing.
Yes.
The city of San Jose might take it in the shorts on this one.
Right. Let me get a couple comments in here because we're starting to get some really good ones in here. Charlie Chambers says the term Michiganders is hated by several, and that's why this reformed Michigander loves it. Go blue.
Wolverines. There you go. Yeah.
And John over on the Facebook side says no constitutional amendment is absolute. Joe Biden. And shall not be infringed. Paul Lathrop. And the founding fathers in 1792. Larry's over on the Facebook side says the difference between, for example, a driver's license versus guns is that driving is a privilege and right to keep and bear arms is a right. That's absolutely dead spot on. By the way, I would say, and I'm going to catch some flack for this from some people. I'm sure not my boss because I think they think the same way, but voting is a privilege. You're nowhere in the Constitution do you have a right to vote. Look it up. It's discussed, but it's never enumerated as a right.
Well, I mean, Paul, it's I'd have to go dig back through the articles, but we do have amendments that cover women have the right to vote. that people 18 and up have the right to vote. I'm trying to think where it is as far as in the original document, not in the amendments. I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure, but I know now that. Listen, and then of course that African Americans could vote. Is
the 14th Amendment. Yeah.
So we do have amendments allowing 18 and up women and African Americans to vote. It does give them the right, but as far as is there an original right to vote in there? I'd have to take a look, Paul. I'd want to give you the exact verbiage. I wouldn't want to misquote it.
It's been so common for so long and so ingrained. So has the right to keep and bear arms. It's just that some of the population doesn't like it, but voting has been so ingrained for so long, everybody assumes it's everyone's right. And now it is, but anyway, and when we first started, when the nation first started, if you wanted to vote, you had to be a landowner.
It did. Listen, it started that way. I remember under the Articles of Confederation. It absolutely did. In the U.S., no one is required by law to vote to any local, state, or presidential election. But according to the U.S. Constitution, voting is a right.
Okay.
So.
All right. Let's see here. I'm looking at, we have, and this is unusual. We've got viewers on YouTube, but we don't have any comments coming through on YouTube. That is, that's highly unusual. So, wow.
Paul, looking past that, just to round off both sides. Mm-hmm. It does say nowhere in the original Constitution did it say as U.S. citizens have a right to vote. Instead, it protects voting rights. So, you know what? That's actually one, Paul, I'm gonna take a look at. Maybe next time we're back on, we have the discussion again, because that's one of those. You sit here and you do the dog face. You're like, huh? Wait, can that be right? Huh? Is that right?
And I got one more story I want to cover, and I think we're going to end up chewing this one for a while. And right. I came across this one on Politico today, and House Democrats. Well, I said that right the first time, but let me repeat it correctly this time. House Democrats are urging Biden to take executive action on gun control. Gee, Mike, it seems like they are almost convinced they're going to lose in November. And let's face it, the closer we get to November, the less anybody who is in a moderate district or is in the Senate and is up for re-election is going to want to do anything that comes even close to a gun rights vote.
Oh yeah, absolutely right. It's very clear that the House Democrats are conceding that they're going to lose by a landslide. The only thing that we could see, right now at this point with hindsight, right, the only thing that might keep everybody from voting is another massive COVID lockdown 2 weeks beforehand, and we're gonna bail everything out, and we're gonna mail them out to Democrats only, because they haven't learned that trick already, have they? So you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, they are conceding at this point that they're gonna, in short of any miracles occurring on their behalf, that they're going to lose the House. So, hey, Sleepy Joe, it's time to start to get that pen and that phone going, and let's get some executive orders here on Second Amendment rights, because we continue to pass bills of all kinds and send them to the House, and they die up there because you people can't vote 50 over 49 to save your lives. So they're trying their best to get the president to break out the executive actions and let us fight over that, rather than worry about who's going to be in office in your congressional seats and some of your Senate seats as well come November. So yeah, it's another Democrat tactic, another Democrat tactic.
Excuse me. Big John 410 over on the YouTube side wants to prove me wrong. He just commented over on YouTube, hello, just to make sure that somebody's commenting over on YouTube. Hey, Big John. Mike, I'm going to have
Let me ask you this one, Paul. Oh, go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to get your crystal ball out. And and Kevin over on the Facebook side, he has another reason why there might not be a big change. Can't vote because of World War III.
Yeah, right.
Well, I don't think World War III is going to come to these shores. I really don't. Simply because nobody has the ability, let's put it that way. We have a Second Amendment here. And I know people like Kevin Sona. I know people like Mike Piwiarski. I know a lot of people that have, I'm not going to say heavy equipment, but I know I could easily equip the Lathrop household and a few others with decent equipment. And I know there are a lot of families like me. So it's going to be a real tough row for somebody to attack mainland United States or Alaska, because let's be frank, they're just highways that you can get to Alaska from the United States really easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's very true, and I think you're right. The World War III, I don't think we have to worry about. Do we have to worry about the threat of World War III? I think every day we're gonna have to play that game because they're telling the story in the Ukraine and in Russia right now like World War III has started. When I really think the more you look at this, you're looking at the extension of a fight for independence versus a Russian civil war kind of a fight. So all for you. Listen, Ukraine getting their independence, and again, I said this to you last week. If it was Poland or Germany, we'd have boots on the ground, but because the people of the Ukraine don't have the membership card in their pocket that the others do, I guess their lives aren't worth as much. And that's every time I see we support the Ukraine, it makes me hate the stance of this coward government we have right now. Listen, if he's really a war criminal and Putin's really the war criminal you say he is, and he's going in to genocide Jews inside the Ukraine, what the hell are you doing sitting on your hands? All right. He either is, it's genocide or it's not. It doesn't matter whose flag's flying on one side of the border. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous.
If your military is attacking theaters filled with civilians,
yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, you're the one in the wrong. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
If your military is attacking a civilian evacuation route and directly attacking civilians fleeing a conflict area, you are the one in the wrong.
Right. And now, Paul, here, let me throw a monkey wrench in it, right? So we're supposed to believe the media on this?
I've seen enough footage off of social media that I am buying a lot of what the media is saying.
Folks, here, Paul, do your own research. Okay. Do your own research. Paul didn't stop by watching CNN and going, oh, looks like this is going on. Paul's doing his own research. The same thing we say to you every day. Mm-hmm. Do your own investigation, do your own research, and you be satisfied. Don't buy what's being fed to you by the mass media.
I'm on the air a half an hour a day and an hour on Saturdays. That doesn't mean that that I work a half an hour a day.
Right.
I do a lot of research. And just full disclosure, since my stroke, my ability to write is severely hampered. My ability to read is hampered a lot. So I'm very dependent on, I do a lot of my research through video, I watch a lot of videos. I consume a lot of media now and try to compensate for my stroke that way. But anyway, you get this one up. Kevin says, I don't trust the media. There's parts of the media you can. If it comes from a few places, I absolutely trust it. Bearing Arms is one of them. If it comes from Bearing Arms, yes, absolutely. It's got a gold stamp on for me on it.
Right. And you know what? You and I talked about that a little bit before we went on the air. There are great organizations out there like Bearing Arms, but every once in a while, one of them authors pops up, and you're like, "What is this crap? How did this guy get in here?" You know, and it just happens. I mean, it's just a numbers game. At some point, you know, you got somebody in there that may have been legitimate at one point, but you know, now they're too busy, you know, supposing and fanboying, you know, to be putting the truth out. So you got to watch. Even if you read on my point, even if you read it on Bearing Arms, you should still double check it. Always get a second source.
Yeah, I would not disagree with that. I almost without exception, when I do catch something on Bearing Arms, I can second source it. They usually almost always list their sources right inside the story.
Oh yeah, because we all play on the same team for the most part, and we know that there's people like you and me and all of our listeners, all of your listeners, viewers out there right now that want that second. So if they don't list it in there, they're going to get turned off.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, we are coming down to the bottom of the hour, and I don't mean to rush out of here, but I think we're going to make this one a little short because I do have to go get a motorcycle. So
there you go.
On our way out the door, if you would, please, Mike, just tell everybody why it's a great deal that the designated hitter rule is now going throughout baseball this year.
Well, they decided the game was too difficult for most people to play anymore, so they were decided to allow 10 people to play the game instead of 9. You know, it just means that baseball players don't go to heaven anymore. It's really what it comes down to.
All right. So, in all seriousness, though, tell everybody about the rundown and how they can catch you.
Listen, catch us at the Rundown Live. Listen, go to rundown.us. I'm not even sure where else to go. I think we got thrown off of Facebook. We might still be on YouTube. We're on the Oplens as well. And 5 o'clock weekdays Eastern time, Monday through Friday. And then, of course, the anchor, the original, with me and the great grandson of Daniel Boone, my best friend Earl, on the Arms Room Radio, Saturdays 3 p.m. Eastern until 5 p.m. Eastern, live at armsroomradio.com.
Very cool. Thanks again, Mike. And everybody watching, thank you for watching. Thanks for catching us live. Thanks for contributing by commenting. Come join us tomorrow when we've got a new kid on the block. Tomorrow, Tom Walls, a good friend of mine and trainer from the Firearms Academy of Seattle, is going to be taking his first turn in the hot seat. He's going to be a recurring commentator going forward. Brilliant guy. Love talking to him, and I'm looking forward to talking to him and introducing you to him tomorrow. Come join us.